Hey everybody, I forgot some facts that I found on my last show of 1972 in retrospect. I forgot to cover some of the TV shows. One of them was actually the show named Zoom debuted in 1972. It was through a public access channel called PBS, Public Broadcasting System, and it was WGBH Boston. And it lasted until 1978. Each year had a different group of kids, each episode, or each season. And sometimes with the seasons, they'd have some of the same kids from the previous season, and they'd introduce more new ones as they went on. And they talked about certain topics, and they did games and a lot of creations they called Zoom Do's, and they had Zoom guests where there were guests that sent in videos of, like, say there were like maybe girls hockey player team that was the Marshfield Gold Diggers. That was their names, and so that's when that debuted. I didn't catch on to the show until 1975 when they had 10 kids instead of the usual 7. But I will be covering that in 1975 because of the kid I had a crush on, and I will put his name. I'll cover that in 1975. And another one, the cartoon Fat Albert debuted, and that was always a funny one with, of course, Fat Albert and, of course, that character Mushmouth. And I used to love when they play in the junkyard. They play like on the cans, they play like percussion, and Mushmouth did the bass, and he'd be like this. So that was Fat Albert debuted along with Sanford and Son, and we all know Sanford and Son, the big junkyard, and Lamont was like really good natured, kind of like a peace type guy, and of course Fred Sanford was the crotchety, hey you big dummy, those were both really good shows. And the Sanford and Son theme, can't remember the name of it, but it was of course it was by Quincy Jones. That I always loved that theme. And so those were the two TV shows, the cartoon and the TV shows that debuted. And the game show Price is Right debuted, and it was my favorite game show. And of course Bob Barker, I can't believe he is still alive and kicking, and of course he was replaced by Drew Carey. And I don't really watch the show much, but I did in the 70s when I was little. I used to even act it out. I'd stand behind the couch in the back Florida room, and I'd stand behind it being like I was one of the contestants, and I'd run up, and oh, why do we have to grow old? And another piece of information, oh no, actually that's 1974, I'm sorry, we'll cover that. And I happened to look on Wikipedia. There was a very first X-rated cartoon, and it was called Fritz the Cat. And it had all his themes about pot smoking, picking up chicks, and it was sort of like the precursor to shows like South Park, Family Guy, or anything on Adult Swim. So that was kind of, I think that was the one that set the tone. And speaking of X-rated films, the first one to go commercial really was, of course, Deep Throat. And we won't need to get into that, but I'm sure you know what I'm getting at. So, and another thing, a lot of the commercials, one that I remember was called Vanquish, and it was a headache medicine, and they'd all they'd do this, like when they had a headache, they'd do this. One part in the commercial where two women are playing cards, and she goes, "Come on, Lois, bid." And of course, she had a headache, and she went like this. So, so those are some topics I didn't mention in my live show, but I figured I'd bring them up now for just fun, lots of fun and going back in time and reliving my childhood. So anyway, that's all for 1972. So see you next week for 1973. Bye.